Hello everyone, this is Sam Breiter and I'm the founder of Run Breiter, a digital running community meant to educate, motivate, and entertain beginner runners and runners who struggle with consistency, see all the mental and physical benefits running provides. I've been coaching runners both in person and digitally for 5 years, but have been running both competitively and casually for 14 years. The Run Breiter podcast gives me the opportunity to bring on guests to share their running journeys and running advice. I assure you, listening to this podcast will make you want to run and follow your journey, as the conversations in this episode will send signals to your mind that even when it's cold, you're sore, tired, or going through something, that a run is still well worth doing. All right, well, welcome to another episode in the Run Breiter Podcast. I'm outside in beautiful sunny Florida today with just a couple days until the Miami Marathon, but I am so lucky to be joined today by another awesome guest. Today we have on Jenny Crawshaw, who Jenny is one of those other runners I found from the TikTok community who's posting great content, who has an amazing running story that I'm really looking forward to diving into today and learning more about. But yeah, I don't want to give too long of an intro, Jenny. I want to give you the opportunity to really, talk in today about your story, some of your achievements with running, some of your tips, all that good stuff. So yeah, go ahead, Jenny. Feel free to start with an introduction, maybe.
Yeah, I'm Jenny and I'm 47 years old and I live in Florida. And I've been running consistently for the past 15 years, but I like to say I had a kind of a rocky start before that. I've spoken before about it on my TikTok videos that I had always wanted to be a runner, and I joined my high school cross country team and was immediately discouraged, and kind of led to believe that I just didn't have it. I wasn't a runner. And after the one season on cross country where, just was not very good, I ended up quitting, and always kind of nagged at me like, oh, I really wish I was a runner. Like, it was always in me. I wanted to be a runner. But for about 15 years, I just really was convinced that I can't be a runner. And occasionally I would try again, and the same thing would happen. I'd, get out of breath after 5 minutes and just chalk it up to, you're not a runner. So just give it up. I pursued other activities like strength training and things like that. Taekwondo, I did that for a while, but it always nagged at me. And then it was my mother, actually. She was turning 65 the following year, she's turning 65, and she really wanted one of those Mickey Mouse Disney medals. And she wasn't a runner either. So she had this great idea that her and her 4 daughters, I'm one of 4 girls, we would all run the Disney half marathon together. My dad laughed out loud, which only made my mom even more determined because none of us were runners at the time. But we decided we had a year to train. We were going to do this for her birthday. And I remember my first training run out, I actually cried because I got a side stitch. I was wheezing. I'm not a runner. I'm like, how in the world am I going to be able to do 13 miles? But I didn't have a choice because this is what she wanted to do for her birthday. So I just kept at it and kept at it. And I remember getting like the first 30-minute run where I didn't need a walk break. And that was a huge accomplishment for me. And then just building and building, and then finally realizing, oh, it's not that you're not a runner. It's just you needed the time to train. Which I was never told. I thought you either had it or you didn't. And after this whole long year process, I ran the half marathon. I don't remember my time, but I was happy with it. And from there on, I've been a consistent runner ever since.
Wow. I love that story. I think it's really unique and inspirational, the fact that your mom really was the one who got you into it, right? And
Yeah,
that it
yeah.
took someone to really push you to overcome the odds and the struggle that you were going through at the beginning. I mean, I think the story that you brought up, the fact that early on when you were running, you had a lot of issues staying consistent with consistent with it, that is, and quitting often. But was it really her and just having that race that pushed you, or was there anything individually that you were able to do to continue to motivate yourself towards that goal of that half marathon?
It was really the small wins. 'Cause I knew I had that half marathon like looming over my head, and I had to get there, so I couldn't quit this time. Um, and I'm a big one on breaking big goals into little chunks. So the first chunk was uh, run a 5K without taking a walk break, and that was a big deal for me. A lot of people, that's not a big deal for them. They can go out and run a 5K. But for me, every time I tried to do a local 5K, I would stop somewhere along the way and walk. So I didn't even care what my time was going to be. It was just get through a 5K without taking a walk break. And then I achieved that goal. And then it was like, okay, now let's work on getting that speed a little bit better, maybe get around 30 minutes for that 5K. I mean, I was a beginner runner here. So it was a small little building steps. Just going through the process of training for the half marathon, everything. I remember the very first day I ran 10 miles, my running partner had to cancel on me. So I was all by myself and very nervous about it. And I remember doing it anyway. And that was just a really big accomplishment to run double digits, 10 miles, all at once.
I mean, I think those little wins, right? We might not always realize them during the process, but over time they continue to build up. And then when you almost think back at how much you've accomplished over that time, and then you see those larger and larger scale results, whether it's that longer distance, that faster time, that is such a way to really continually stay consistent with running, as well as build on to new challenges and new achievements. So I really love that story. Now, at this point, though, you've obviously progressed quite a bit as a runner. I saw Boston qualifier. Do you mind continuing the story and how you got to that point of doing marathons and, of course, running a time that most people aren't able to achieve?
Yeah. So after the half marathon, which I believe was 2009, I thought, I think I want to try the full. I've put in all this work. I don't, a whole year's worth of work. I don't want to let it slip away. So the marathon, I signed up for Disney, which was an entire year away, and ran my first marathon, which is hard. Marathons are hard. There are some tears involved in that, but I finished. And then I was not near a Boston qualifying time at that point. And some people were putting it in my ear, oh, you should try and qualify for Boston. In my head, I was like, there's no way. I'm 30 minutes away from that, not even close. This race killed me. But I did sign up for another one. And again, just did the little building blocks, small achievements, and just went into it with, I'm going to train for it and see what happens. And I got a lot fitter in that second year of marathon training, because now I've been consistent for almost 3 years. And so 2010 or 2009, this is a long time ago. I get the years mixed up. So my second marathon, I did actually qualify for Boston off of that one. So that's almost 3 years of training at that point. And then I did a few more marathons, but then life got busy and I had to put it on the back burner for a while. So then 10 years later, now we're talking nowadays, it burned at me again. I'm like, I want to see if I can get a Boston qualifier again. So I put in that work. And again, it took almost 2 years again, because my first attempt after like a 10-year hiatus of marathons, I wasn't anywhere close. I actually ran my slowest marathon that time. That was in 2021. And then last year in 2022, I did get the Boston qualifier again. But it's consistent work over years. When I put running on the back burner, I never quit it completely, because I knew how long it had taken me to get to where I was. But I just didn't have the time during my life at that time for big mileage and a lot of traveling and racing. So I just only jumped into local stuff here and there, but stayed consistent with the running, just not like serious training. So it's years of work to get bigger goals like that. But that's why I like to focus on the smaller goals, because those you can see a win, tomorrow or next week or next month, rather than waiting years for this goal that you're not sure it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I agree. I couldn't agree more with the fact that you obviously, to see an accomplishment like a Boston qualifier, you really got to put in a lot of consistent work over time. But I think what you're talking about, there were certain periods in your life, it sounded like, that having a goal like this made more sense and it was more realistic, and other times where it wasn't. But it wasn't like that you completely ran away from running, no pun intended there.
Yeah.
But rather you just kept your fitness level up to then, when you knew you had that time availability and travel availability to really push for that goal, to really get into it. And I think for some people, they can view running as like an all or nothing thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Very competitive and compare themselves to other people. But I think truly, as you have mentioned and displayed, just because you don't have a goal wrapped to something doesn't mean you won't enjoy running. I'm sure for you, and this, I'd be curious, those times in which you were training for a goal, like a Boston qualifier, compared to those times where you were simply just running to keep your fitness level up, how did you enjoy those two processes comparatively to each other?
Yeah, so I actually do love the training. I make fun of it a lot on TikTok and make jokes like, "Oh no, another long run." But I actually like it. So but it's intense and you're focused and your life kind of revolves around it. So in those periods where I'm not working towards something, it's nice to just maybe take the dog more a few times or run in a different place because you don't have to worry, oh, I've got to work out tomorrow or something. Running off-road trails. That's actually why my screen name is TrailJenny, because I think I started my Instagram in one of the off periods, the in between. And at the time, I was running a lot more trail runs to mix it up. Just keep it fun and interesting, but don't attach any goals. And don't, I have friends who have gone through life stuff and they get upset that I'm not fast anymore. I'm like, speed comes and goes. It's,
Yeah.
you'll have it one day and not the next. And running's always waiting there for you when you're ready to put in that work again, and just back off and do it to what's enjoyable.
Your statement on speed comes and goes. It's true, and people think, "Oh, is something wrong with me if you're not running at the speed level that you once were?" But there's so many things that I think are in your control, but also out of your control that can affect
Hmm.
that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, one thing that I do want to ask you about, because I think your story is incredible, right? Someone who could barely even run at a consistent rate to obviously now more than once qualifying for Boston, and really just having a lifestyle of running and a love for running, and being able to, whether it's something you're training for aggressively with one of these BQs or just having an off season where you're running for your passion and enjoyment of it. What advice do you have for someone who might be a beginner runner or someone who struggled with consistency to really feel the way that you have felt about running over the years?
Yeah, and I have seen a lot of my friends, because when life gets busy, whether it's from good stress or bad stress, new baby, new job, anything, new puppy, um, you can
That's
feel
fun.
like, yeah, it's fun, but it's stress on you and your body. When it takes any kind of stress, the running's going to be harder anyway. And for people who are just getting into it, just patience with yourself. And like one of the things that I do is this easy days or the recovery run days. I run those so slow. I have no embarrassment what the Strava says. I don't care. I don't even look at the watch. It's more about just getting out there, especially when I take the dog, because he's going to sniff 3,000 times, in 1 mile. But it's just about that easy movement. And if you're a beginner and that easy movement includes walk breaks, that's fine too. That's still time on your feet and you're moving. Or if you're going through, a hectic time in your life, just pull it back. And I mean, it should really feel easy for you. And everybody's easy is going to feel different, and everybody's easy pace is going to be different. And don't be embarrassed by it. A lot of people will say stuff. They'll see my race times or maybe, a workout that I did, and they're like, "Oh, you're too fast for me. You won't want to run with me." I'm like, "No, no, have you seen my easy days? Because they're pretty easy." And that's something that, I learned over the long run. Like, if you want to get enjoyment out of it, it should not be killing you every time you go out, or you're not gonna go out. You won't get out there.
Yeah. And I know so many people who they don't understand the concept of these easy days. They feel if they're going outside, they got to really push themselves and get something out of it. But I'm right there with you. I mean, I look forward to those easy days because I know I'm not gonna be tired after those runs. And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of the mental solitude truly comes from. So I'm so glad you brought that up. I think you can't say it enough because there's even if you tell everyone someone's not gonna
Yeah.
do it, but that's where you recover. That's where that mental growth comes in. So I'm glad we're in agreement on that. Now, as far as your Boston qualifying training, though, I'd like to dive into that a little bit because there's so many different formulas and strategies
Yeah.
that people feel like work for them. What would a typical week look like for you going into a training for that? Obviously, it's going to range as the training progresses.
Yeah.
But do you mind jumping into that a little
Yeah,
bit?
not at all. Um, So usually I run 6 days a week when I'm training seriously for something. Mileage usually at the beginning of the program is 40 to 45 a week. And I usually peak around 60, maybe like 63 or 64,
Okay.
which sounds high, but it's not that high mileage. I've seen a lot higher. That's what I seem to handle pretty well, especially at my age now. Um, so I usually do like 1 to 2 speed workouts a week,
Mm.
and then a long run. And then the other 3 days are those easy days, usually in a range of 6 to 8 miles for the easy days.
Okay. And what type of speed workouts do you typically do? I'm sure there's a few different ones that you like to incorporate, but do you mind jumping into those a little bit?
Yeah, so the plan I'm on now is a little different. So I haven't been through it yet, so I can't really talk too much about that because I'm only a couple weeks into that one. But in the
Right.
past, what always worked for me is alternating, like one week doing interval repeats and then the next week doing tempo runs. Intervals usually the way I would do it is start as shorter intervals in the beginning of the plan and work up to longer intervals. So start maybe the first week of intervals might be 400-meter repeats, and then the next week might be 800s, and then where you're working up to about 1K repeats. But that's a slow progression over the whole, 4 months of training. And then the other weeks doing tempo runs, and I've done a couple different styles of tempo runs. This just the straight out mileage ones where you're just sustaining that tempo for that time, or the tempo intervals where you're doing maybe a 2x2 mile or a 2x3 mile with a small break in between. And I feel like a lot of runners have a strength or a weakness. My strength is actually more towards intervals.
Mm.
I mean, I usually can knock those out with any problem, but the tempos always give me trouble. So those are the ones that seem big and scary to me. Those are the ones that seem harder because it's a long time. And those are the ones that I used to struggle with and end up quitting a lot. So I feel like not everybody, but some people are either one way or the other. And if you know that about yourself, then you can know when you're going into the workout that you're not usually as good at to, give yourself a little bit of grace, maybe make your pace instead of saying, oh, I need an 8:30 sharp, say an 8:30 to an 8:40 would be good. Like give yourself a little cushion if you know it's your weakness so that you can come out on the other end successful rather than failing and getting upset with yourself and then just digging that hole of failure.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I like how you talked about the range, right? Because I think there's times in which people are told, whether it's a speed workout or even like a long run, they're really focused in on a certain pace. But I think especially with marathon training, having that range that you're looking to, hit those metrics within can really be just beneficial mentally. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I truly don't think nailing it down by the second, unless maybe you're an Olympic athlete,
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
too necessary. And, yeah, like I said, I appreciate you bringing that up. Now, I'm curious, outside of running, are there any other areas of fitness you incorporate as far as cross training, or do you have, any strength training you do, any strong views on stretching or other movements for recovery? I'd be really curious outside of running what you do to make sure that when you are running, you're the best version of yourself.
Yeah, so I've always strength trained. That's what I did before I ran. I was more into strength training before I realized, oh, you can run. So I've always kept that in. Some people think I lift a bit heavy for a runner. I don't think I do. It's nothing crazy. I'm not Olympic weightlifting, but I usually during a marathon build, I keep it at around 2 times a week. If I had much less mileage, I would probably do 3 times a week, and balance it with the running. But during the marathon build, I do keep it at 2 times a week. Um, there's tons of ways to split up strength training. I found for me, what works during marathon training is 2 full body workouts a week. And they usually only take me 30 or 40 minutes. So even if I'm tired from the mileage, I can kind of make myself go out and do them. And I focus on very basic exercise. There's nothing flashy or fancy. I usually include basics like a squat, a deadlift, a few upper body basics like bench press, bent over rows, something for the shoulders, chest, and back, just so I keep that in shape and not getting weak. And then a couple single leg exercises, maybe like a walking lunge or a single leg deadlift, something like that. And then obviously I put in some core work. So it's nothing fancy or flashy. It's just basics. I've always kind of felt like the basics. If you don't know where you're coming from strength training, you don't have to do a really fancy thing. Just get out there and cover about 4 or 5 basic movements, and that's better than nothing. So that's where my stance is on it. I'd rather see people do simple stuff than get confused over, 8 lunge variations or whatever. Like, no, you don't need all that. Just pick up something and squat it, and it's better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you mentioned too that you felt like some people viewed the amount that you were lifting weight wise to be a little bit too much. I feel like sometimes I do the same, but as long as you're not feeling overtrained, I think that's really what's
Yeah.
important. Do you find though, as you get closer to that race, you start to lower the weight just to be conservative, or do you tend to keep the weight fairly similar throughout the training that you're lifting?
Yeah, so I usually when I'm kind of in off season, so before I started my marathon training, well, I had done a marathon in October and took time off to recover from that, and then restarted up with the strength training. And so then I increased, not every week, but when I felt like the reps were easy, then I would increase. So maybe every week, maybe every other, just depended on the exercise. And then got right into marathon training. I may have done one more increase or not. And then I was like, from here on out, I'm staying the same. Because my focus now is not to, build a lot of muscle. I need to just stay where I'm at. And if I felt like an exercise was truly easy, I would bump it up a little bit. But for the most part, that's not my overreaching goal. I'd probably have to do the exercise about 2 weeks in a row and be like, that was really kind of easy before I'd bump it up. But in an off season, I'd be paying more attention. I'd be like, that one's easy, bump it up. That one's easy, bump that one up. But in marathon build, once I kind of start, I try and hover where I'm at, and not really worry about it too much.
I want to jump into the races that you've done a little bit deeper. Obviously, you mentioned that you did, was it the Disney Marathon was one of the first race marathons
Yeah.
that you done? And then obviously Boston. Is it mostly marathons that you enjoy doing now? Do you do a wide variety of races? And, what are
Yeah.
the highlights through the years that you've done?
I've done a wide variety. So in that period where I was kind of like not really training super hard, I still jumped into a lot of 5Ks and some trail races that weren't super long. But I see merit in all different distances. So after Boston, I'm actually going to transition to training for 5K specifically, because usually 5Ks, I just kind of jump in whatever. And since I've done 3 marathons in the past 2 years, I'm going to just like give my body step back a little bit, change the training a little bit, and actually go more for a speedier 5K just to change it up. My own personal, training. It's not like I'm trying to beat a certain goal or anything. So I can see merit in all levels. There's, marathons. If you don't feel like a marathon is for you, that's fine. It doesn't mean you're any less of a runner or more of a runner just because you do a different distance. It's all a personal preference, and I can see merit in all of them. I really love the half marathon. I feel like that's a fun distance to race because it still requires a lot of the build up and the training intensity that a marathon, but not quite to that level. And so you can kind of get away with a little bit less and still have a really good performance. So that's a fun distance to do, especially if you're new to racing. I feel like a half marathon is kind of a pretty big carrot dangling out there, that it's long enough that you can't just wing it, but it's short enough that it's not going to destroy you.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about the half marathon, and I try to push a lot of new runners to like challenge themselves for that because I think if you're in decent physical shape, a 5K, a 10K, you can accomplish that, but that half marathon, I think it definitely requires you to get your feet really wet and jump into a
Yeah.
training series and get over some really large humps and run at distances that you've never really done. And then obviously when race day hits, achieve that 13-mile mark. I remember when I ran that first one, it was really tough, but a great experience. And I'm
Yeah.
sure for you, that you had a similar feeling, right?
Oh yeah. And then it benefits the shorter training too. When you go back to the 5K and 10K, you have all this endurance you've built up, and now you can actually try some faster paces at those other shorter distances that you didn't quite have the fitness to do at that time. So it's kind of neat to bounce between them sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Now, something I see a lot with runners is, especially the beginner ones, they might be running like a couple days a week and getting into it, but that step of actually signing up for a race, I think oftentimes could be very stressful, put in some people might see some anxiety from that and not think that they're capable of doing it. Do you have any advice you'd have for someone to, one, like figure out what a good race fit for them would be, but two, actually take that step towards signing up for something and of course doing that race?
Yeah, so I think to know where you're at, if you can't sustain a half an hour, maybe you want to start in the 5K, 10K range first and try, and you've never done a race before, like, because that'll give you that motivation to say, well, and it's fine to take walk breaks in a race too. I'm not saying you have to run them all out, but if you're only going out there for a half an hour, to jump to a half marathon might be a big jump if you've never done a race before. There's people that do it though. So if there's one that really fancies you, I think that's the big one, is find a race that intrigues you. I mean, that goes back to my mom. She wanted the Mickey Mouse medal. That's all she cared about.
The
She
cool
knew
medal.
people who had done it. She thought it looked cool. We're like, Mom, you're not a runner. She wasn't a runner. She just kind of walked for fitness. That just was the carrot she needed, and we were all dragged into it, and now look at us. So if there's a race that you think sounds really cool, I really like to do races at a place where I think would be fun to vacation. Like you're in Miami, and you're
Yeah.
from New York. I find that really fun. I actually did a race in New York, upstate
Wow.
New York, for the whole reason that I thought the town looked beautiful. It was Wine Glass Marathon, and
Hmm.
I picked it because I thought it looked like a beautiful place to visit. And it was. It was amazing. I had a great vacation there as well as a race. So for people who are not sure that they want to race, like, tie it around something else. Like, is it the swag you really like, or is it, the destination you really like? Like, make something else about the race that's intriguing you besides just your performance. And know that going into it, like, yeah, you're going to want to have a good performance, but if for some reason you don't, you also got this amazing medal or this great vacation or this cool shirt out of it. Like, have something else kind of dragging you in, because when you're a beginner, you don't know what your performance can be, and there's so many variables on race day, that you don't want to tie yourself to that one performance, because you'll just get discouraged from racing again.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Now that wine glass race that you had mentioned in upstate New York, I actually haven't heard about that. Where
Oh,
is
it's
that?
nice.
Is wine involved in that race at all? Like maybe
Yeah,
race
yeah,
or
it's in Corning, New York, and that's where they actually have like the Corning glassware. That's where it's from,
hmm.
and it is near New York wine area, so that you do get like a little bottle of wine. I think it was at the finish. I think that was actually in our race bag. Your medal is glass, made at the Corning Museum of Glass, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
And it's a really pretty town. It's right in October, so the leaves are just changing. A big change for me coming from Florida. The weather was perfect. It has this cute little downtown Main Street. That's right where the finish line is. It was super enjoyable. It was a really, really nice one. It's not a very big race. It's not like a New York or a Chicago or Boston. It's maybe 3,000 people. So it's big enough, but it still has that kind of small town feel. And that's probably one of my favorite ones I've ever run, just because of the setting of the race was so beautiful. It's like, you can't beat this. This is a great weekend.
That's so cool. I mean, I definitely have to look into that one because
Yeah,
New York City, so it's probably a couple hours away from me.
probably a couple hours. Yeah.
It's a good goodie bag. That's always a good motivation.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, now I want to kind of pivot and jump into your personal brand a little bit. I'll be
Mhm.
honest, talking to you, there's no surprise that you'd be someone that would want to join this run talk community, as a
Yeah.
lot of people phrase it. You obviously can speak very well and have a lot of really good running stories and running tips, which I think equates to people wanting to create their own brand. But for you, from your standpoint, what actually made you want to publicize your life about running to the point where obviously you're posting pretty consistently on TikTok, and I'd be really curious to learn about that.
Um, yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from seeing other people post. And so I'm that person who, my alarm clock goes off at 5 in the morning, I feed the dog, and then I don't want to go for my run because it's dark. So I turn on TikTok and watch all of you guys, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going. And it's true, and
Oh,
everybody out there, and you feel like you know them. And so then I wanted to start sharing that as well. I'm not as good as talking. I more just do music over my running, but I try and talk a little bit because I enjoy when other people talk on it. I'm like, why am I being shy about that? I should just do that too. But yeah, I see other people, and I know it motivates me. And there's some of us that kind of have little things that hold us accountable. There's the couple in Ireland, the running physios. I don't know if you know them. We go back and forth of don't skip your strides, because that's like so tedious. And then Billy, I run Chicago. Billy on TikTok, he is the never miss a Monday guy. So every Monday, I mean, there's a bunch of us out there that are like, this is for you, Billy, never miss a Monday. And I just love that community. So, I want to share and be part of that community as well because I know how much I get out of it.
whether it's running or anything that someone's passionate about, right? You can always find a community. And I think TikTok has really helped for that. And I think it's so cool how different people have different roles and different ways of motivating people. And it's so true. I mean, there's so many different people out there. I could probably we could
Oh
talk
yeah.
about the number of people who motivate me in different ways, but knowing who to seek for a certain motivation, whether it's running on a Monday or eating healthy, whatever it might be, I think
Hmm.
it's just really a great way to live a healthy life and use these platforms as a positive when easily it could be a negative source of information in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I know one thing that you like to talk about a lot is some of your favorite gear that you have. And I know you have like a link attached to your bio with, I think it was like your top 10 favorite running gear. Um,
Yeah.
I'd be curious too, because I think a lot of beginner runners, and sometimes even myself, I've been running for 14 years at this point, I'll get into this trap of knowing I need something new for a specific need with running, but there's so many great products out there. It's hard to know where to start, but I think really the best way is by knowing someone who's tested something that you trust. I'm
Yeah.
curious about some of your favorite running gear that you have for those different areas.
Yeah. So I've always been a gear junkie. I'm really picky about my gear. So especially when I have to carry things, carry water, carry a phone. I've been known to throw fits and toss things in the trash, after a run because it didn't work for me. And so I've kind of always shopped a lot, I guess. And Amazon actually reached out to me about a year ago and invited me to their influencer program. And basically all it is if there's a product you like and you use and it's on Amazon, share it. They're not making me post anything. I'm not getting sent products to review. It's still all my own products that I own. So I'm like, wow, this is a good fit for me because it's not like I'm having to, glue myself to a certain brand or being stuck. I can try anything I want as long as it's on Amazon. I mean, I can try stuff that's not on Amazon and I still do. But if it's on Amazon, then I share on Amazon on about it. And I post a lot of those to TikTok too. Not all of them. I have more on Amazon that gear I've tried out, but I post a lot to TikTok and Instagram because I know how hard it is to find that gear because I'm that person. I have probably like 10 pairs of shoes in rotation right now. I just like them. It's running's my hobby. That's where I'm gonna put my dollars into. Because I like it. I love it. I would rather say, oh, I'm not gonna, eat out 5 times a week, but I'm gonna buy a new pair of shoes this week and try them out. And if they suck, I'm gonna let you know they suck. Or, I've tried different gear, different belts, and I have my favorites. And I have my favorites for different reasons. Like if I'm doing this type of run, I'm gonna want, this particular belt because it's low profile. But if I'm doing a trail run, I might want the hydration vest because I can pack a lot more into it. Or, a big one, sorry, you're a guy, but a big one I've been posting to a lot of the ladies is the sports bra with the pocket in the back. I only started with that about a year ago, and I will never run a race without, if I need to take my phone, it fits right in the back. And I'm like, where have these been our whole lives as ladies with sports bras? We already have the material back there. Why not make a pocket? So it's fun stuff like that to just share, like, here's easy ways to carry. And it's kind of funny because I have my husband and my son who both run. And so whenever they're like, oh, I got to head out for a run, but I don't have pockets to carry fuel. I'm like, I've got 10 things here. Yeah. Try this spy belt or try this or whatever.
I
I've got
love
it.
that.
Yeah. So if you ever need advice for what should I wear in a race, I probably have 10 options for you. If you're, how do I carry my phone? How do I carry my water? How do I carry my gels? Um, I've tried it, and there's a couple of us on TikTok that we joke that we're shopaholics. It's fun. We like it. Why not?
Yeah,
Golfers have all their stuff.
listen, the way I view it is it's worth spending money on something and investing in yourself if it's something that is going to positively impact your life, right? And
Oh,
clearly
for sure. Yeah.
these gears, I mean, it makes running easier and more fun. And obviously there's that connection component with it. When you talk to the community about those different products you like, I'm sure there's a lot of good conversation that happens with that.
Well, and if you've been running about as long as me, you said about 14 years. I
Yeah.
mean, you remember when there was like no gear.
Yeah.
There was no way to carry your phone and there was like nothing. So it's exciting that these companies come out with these cool things.
Yeah, I remember when I was, I don't know, probably in my freshman year of high school, they had that like patch that you'd put your phone in.
Giant, yeah.
And it
Yeah,
was
the
the most
giant thing.
uncomfortable thing. It felt like you had a
Yeah.
weight on your arm. And now there's just so many better ways. And I'm sure like we'll listen to this episode in 10 years from now. And the stuff that's going to be out then, it's probably going to be better.
Yeah.
We probably won't even have a phone this big, but
No,
that's
it'll probably be
what
implanted in our head at that point.
literally cool. Well, if someone wants to find these products, they go to your TikTok profile, right? And
Yeah, I have like a link tree in there. Yeah.
awesome. And what's like the full name of your TikTok account, just so people can
It's
obviously find
TrailJenny. Yeah.
TrailJenny.
Instagram and TikTok, it's both TrailJenny.
Great, awesome. And I know also some of the content that I saw, and it's actually done fairly well too. You create your own soap, is that correct?
I do. Yeah. So that's actually how I started on TikTok.
Hmm.
Um so I make soaps because I live in Florida and man, when you run through the summer, you get pretty gross. And it was just an interest of mine to make handmade soaps. And when I made them first for my family, I'm like, these are actually pretty nice for runners. So I decided to just launch an Etsy shop, and I've had it, I think, 4 or 5 years now. It's small. I'm mostly saying they're soaps for runners. I don't do the fancy decorated cupcake style soaps, frosted tops. Those are beautiful, and I love the soap makers that do them, but that's just kind of not my thing. So I originally started out on TikTok because their film editing was way better than Instagram at the time. So I was only going on there to make clips of me like cutting soap to then post on Instagram. And as I spent more time on TikTok, I was like, hey, it's kind of cool in here. And there's a lot of runners and they're doing some pretty cool things. I think one of my first runners that I followed was Sarah. I always call her TikTok Sarah, and Drew, Rambling Runner Drew. I think they were my first two runners I followed. And I just thought it was really fun that these people are running and filming these videos. So I started hanging around more. And I think if you go back to my account way back in the beginning, it was all soap because that's all I was there for at first, just to use the editing tools. And then slowly I got kind of brave enough to start sharing my running videos too. So that's how that kind of came about.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, and I'm always looking for new, better quality products. So I'm curious with your soap. I mean, obviously you market it as it's meant for runners. Are there any like is there anything that's different with that soap compared to something I'd find at CVS, or is it just kind of how you market it?
Yeah, so for the most part, it's gonna have like only natural ingredients in it. Almost all of my soaps are only scented with an essential oil instead of like a fragrance oil. And then a lot of them also have, not all of them, but I do a lot that contain tea tree oil, which helps with like if you've got like sweat and bacteria on your body, like tea tree oil is known to help keeping you from breaking your skin breaking out. Because when you're sweating, and that's what was happening to me. I was running in the summer, you're just covered in sweat, and then I was breaking out where like my sports bra would be and all of that. I have like a honey balm that I use for like areas that chafe. I made that because I was chafing. I have like a muscle rub that is a bunch of essential oils known for healing muscle tissue because my friend's foot got hurt, so I'm like, let me create this product for you, for my friend, and she loved it. So I'm like, well, I'll put it in the Etsy shop. So it's just little stuff like that. I have like a charcoal soap that is really good if you're really having the breakouts from the sweat. So that's probably the only reason I would say they're for runners, is because when I'm creating a soap in my head, I'm thinking, how can it help someone's skin who's having issues? I have a couple that are for dry skin because the people who run up in the snow in the winter, they're having problems with like chapped lips and like the windburned cheeks and that kind of stuff. So when I create a soap, it's mostly how can it benefit a runner rather than how can it look pretty on the shelf. And that's the only reason I would say that they're for runners is, and there's some that aren't, that I just do them for fun, especially the Christmas ones, like hot chocolate soap. That's not helping you for your running. That one's just fun. But my core line, like the ones I always try and keep in stock, they're my runner soaps.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. After this episode, maybe in a couple hours, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna order some because for me, I have had some issues with some breakouts with running, and it's the worst, right? And I
Yeah.
all these different products, some of which are just cheap, some are meant for it, but I haven't really had like a ton of like consistency with that. And if you're saying that it's something that can definitely help with that, I'm definitely gonna try it out. So if anything, you're into sale from this episode.
There you go. Yeah.
Awesome.
I would recommend if you're having breakouts, there's three that I like for breakouts, and I'm actually they're going back in stock today. The charcoal and tea tree. That
Okay.
one's if you're really having trouble. The oatmeal lavender, which also has tea tree in it.
Mm,
That's if you're a little bit sensitive, but you're breaking out. And then the lemongrass tea tree. Those are my three soaps that I would say if you're really having issues with your skin breaking out from the sweat from running, start with one of those three.
that's great. Cool. Well, I'll definitely be getting the charcoal one because yeah,
Yeah, a lot of men like that one too.
yeah,
Like,
sounds good. Does it smell good?
yeah, it smells like tea tree if you like tea tree.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Awesome. Well, Jenny, this has been so much fun, really just getting to know you, learning more about your running journey. You have such great tips too. And I think learning about some of your favorite gear and, of course, the soap that I'm now going to be ordering made this episode so well worth it. Anything else you want to share with the community before I let you get back to your day here?
Um, I just love to see people, putting a challenge that's their challenge. Think about don't think about the challenge that's down the road. Think about the challenge that's next, and that's maybe making you a little nervous, and just go for it and just take that next step. I love to see people overcoming their challenges, any pace, whatever they're going for. I find that motivating too. Like to see people overcoming things. So if there's a challenge that you are a little nervous about, just go for it and then let us know on TikTok and we'll cheer you on.
Amazing. We love the challenges. We love seeing people overcoming the odds. So really great advice as always. But Jenny, like I said, so much fun getting to know you. Everyone check her out on TikTok and Instagram. I really mean it when I say she has such cool content. I only have people on if I feel like they're going to provide
Aw.
value and if they are people that are creating good stuff. And you obviously are. So TrailJenny, check that out. But I do appreciate everyone listening to another episode of the Run Breiter podcast, and we'll be back with more here real soon.